Hi, this is
Hello.
Deborah with 60 Plus Black Women Expats Group. And I have a special, I only do videos, YouTube or Facebook when I have something to say. I think I have a person who has a lot to say and that we will definitely want to hear from. I have a special guest today. It's Dr. Keely Mitchell. I will allow her to introduce herself. And in her introduction, I think you'll grasp why I thought it was important to have her on today. Dr. Keely, Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm happy to be here. I'm Keely Mitchell. I am working on my doctorate in human development. And so part of my research is studying, I guess we could nickname it the blaxit movement, but really looking at African Americans, Black Americans who move abroad and looking at why they move abroad. What is the impact? Is it good? Is it bad? Kind of taking the anecdotes that we see on social media and give the scientific research behind it. So I'm more of a social scientist who loves collecting degrees. Deborah knows this about me. Not only am I working on my doctorate, but I already have my law degree and my business degree. And you might be wondering, how does it all fit together? I think it does in the sense of business and law deal with people. And we can't do anything without the other. So even if we're moving abroad, we're dealing with businesses, we're impacted by it. And if we're moving abroad, we're dealing with laws that we are impacted by. And many of us are moving because we're not maybe thrilled at what's going on in our own country with the laws and policies. So to me, they all come together. But I am a lover of education, and I'm really passionate about this particular topic.
Yeah, because what we both agree on is knowledge is power.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
have to know what's available. You decide whether you act on it. We're not here to
Mhm.
tell you, oh, everybody has to leave the United States. That's a very personal choice, but some people aren't even aware that they have that choice. I mean, that they really, really have that choice, that it is doable, and that a lot of people are doing it. And I first found out about Dr. Mitchell through my good friend Charlotte Van Horn, Black expats in Panama and worldwide expats. And she interviewed you, and I said, "Oh, I have to contact this lady because I want this person because I want her to include the exodus of the senior community, and
Mhm.
that's my focus, the senior, but my focus is Black women and Black women who are preparing to retire, whereas Charlotte's group is larger. It encompasses, all age groups and families or whatever. But I wanted to give the perspective from the seniors because many times it is the single, not necessarily single. Not everybody in my group is single. They're married women, but a lot are, and they feel like they are not equipped to move abroad, or that they're the odd man out when they mention it to family members. Her thing, oh, we got to watch her. She's talking about leaving the country. She's never left the country, or we don't know if that's safe or whatever. So when I saw you being interviewed, it just was like, here's an opportunity for two things to happen. For me to introduce her, to present her to my viewers in the Facebook group and on YouTube, who need to know how many of us are making that choice and have made that choice. And the fact that you're doing a study on that just gives us so much valuable information once this study is complete. And then also, because you do the study through surveys, you needed people who are doing it or thinking of, in the process, who've done it and are doing it and are planning to do it. And that's where my group comes in, because Out of the almost 4,000, I'd say over a third of them are very seasoned expats who have lived in multiple countries, and not some of them live there full time. Some of them seasonally go abroad and live for different periods of time every year. And so, and I know, like many admin of groups, we're very guarded in who we allow into our group because it's like our family, and we set an atmosphere. We don't want people I don't want people targeting my group. I have so many that approach me that want to sell to the group, promote their services and everything to the group. And some of it's relevant, like they're tour agents and travel agents and whatever. But it's my responsibility to vet them.
Mhm.
And I tell them when they say, but the people in your group are my target audience. I say, yeah, but they're not targets. Nobody
Right.
said, I want to join Deborah's group because I want a target on my back and I want people to just sell to me. And so they know I'm very guarded when I present someone to them. I have spoken to them. I have seen them in action in other sites. And when you got through the Queen Bee gatekeeper, Charlotte Van Horn, I was like, okay. Because we had that trust relationship. And when I started my group, I went to various group admins telling them, look, you have a group that's there's no age focus, there's no gender focus. Can I tell them that if they're a Black female and they're approaching retirement, they're not digital nomads moving from place to place, but they want to find communities abroad of Black seniors. Can I tell them? Most of them said, hell no, get away, because they're very faithful. Yeah. And I respect that. When I approached Charlotte, she was like, that's wonderful. Not only will I do it, but I'll do it. You're just starting off. Let me do it in my group because my group is larger. And that was Charlotte. Charlotte. That's 3 years ago, and she is blown up because she's such a giver. If you are legitimate and your motives are pure, she's open to assist you. And so when she was interviewing you, I was like, this is a woman that I want to expose to my group to her. Put your survey inside the group so people can feel comfortable filling out the survey. You're in the group. They can feel comfortable interacting with you. And so that's the whole purpose of this interview.
Wonderful. Yes, I love Charlotte. I was just talking to Charlotte yesterday. So.
Yeah, she's a hoot. Yeah. And I want you to stay tuned to the end because I want Dr. Mitchell to tell us about everything. I have 2 announcements at the end, so stay to the end because it's going to be exciting. Okay. All right, Dr. Mitchell, tell us how you're doing this, why you're doing this.
All right, so I will start with the why, because people wonder, you have 2 graduate degrees. Why on earth at 51 are you going back and getting your PhD? So I think it's really important because you raise how these groups are very guarded. And I respect that. So me trying to come in and like ask questions, people are like, no, most of the groups, the administrators have been like, oh God, no, we won't talk to you. But I consider myself an insider in the sense of 2020, when all of us were on lockdown, and I'm watching the television and like back to back, I mean, just in our face, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. I was like, I'm done. I'm leaving the country. I can't take this anymore. And I started researching where to go. And I'm looking at social media, and there's.
Can I interrupt you a second? Are you sure. I think we're picking up the background noise from the construction. You keep talking. I'm going to shut the door.
Okay, great. So I was watching all of this happen. I'm looking at social media, and social media, there's all these groups, Black people all over the world saying how they've left, they're never coming back, and giving advice on how they were leaving and what they were doing. But the key thing I kept picking up was they were talking about their mental and physical well-being improving when they left. Consistently, over and over and over again, there was this discussion about I left and I'm no longer on heart medication. I left and I dropped weight. It was so much. And so I'm now the researcher in me, because I collect these degrees, I couldn't find anything to back it. It was all anecdotal. And I'm like, but all of these people can't be just making this up. Like there's something going on that no one is addressing. So as I started digging more into it, I started realizing the United States doesn't even track its citizens when they leave. So I couldn't even get the numbers, not even just how many Black Americans have left. I couldn't get how many like US citizens in general who had left. There were estimates about, and right now it's about a little over 9 million that they suspect living abroad. I suspect there's more than that, but we can get into that later. But as I dug into this, and I also dug into, I no longer want to be here. I said, this needs to be researched.
Personally?
Personally, like not only, and so I literally over COVID started filling out like grad school applications because I wanted to research this. And it was very personal to me. And I wanted to find a university that, if people don't know, oftentimes when you go and study your PhD, you're studying under a professor and you're really studying that professor's research, and then you get to release and go on your own. But I didn't want to wait that long. And so I found I found a university that supported what I wanted to do, and was willing to give me the guidance. And I just felt it was so important for us to know this, for my community. And that's really what this has been about, is like educating my community on, one, we can leave. We don't have to stay here. And if you feel like, the racism and police brutality and this is a horrible place, like, we can leave. Once again, not saying you have to, but just, the options. And then two, that that when you do leave, there are some positive, like effects to that, like that you personally can improve. And so I'm studying like the why, and like, where does it matter where we go? What are the conditions within which like we flourish? So that's kind of, there's like so much that I'm focusing on. But that's kind of the gist of it, of just trying to gather that information. So I came up with a survey, and it's anonymous unless people want to be interviewed. You can just give your information and I will never know who you are, where you came from, or anything like that. But really trying to collect the information and find out, are people's lives improving? Trying to get to the bottom of, if they are improving, why? Is there some countries better for us than others? So the main 5 countries I'm looking at are France, Ghana, Japan, Mexico, and South Africa. That's the current survey. But I've studied Panama. Like the last study I did, I didn't narrow down to countries. I just did across the board, wherever I could find participants. And what I found was so interesting that I wanted to dig deeper and find out more. And so that's what the current survey is. It's just kind of dig a little bit deeper and find out. And like picking out, is there a difference between gender? Is there a difference between those who have children, those who don't? Is there a difference between age? If you're retiring or if you're younger, like I'm just trying to kind of collect all of that so I can then put it back out into our community. So
yeah, I think that's vital information, because I can only speak to my age group. It was important for me to expose my family, my children to international travel when they were growing up, and certainly after they started families. And so I had the pleasure of hosting my youngest daughter's family. Her husband and the three kids spent Christmas with me of 2023, and they had a ball. And now that's not their first time traveling abroad, but that was their first time coming to Ecuador and spending the whole week. And they had a ball. They told, and I'm one of the things, and I think it's the case of a lot of people in my particular group, is that we're the trailblazers for our children and our grandchildren, for our heirs. And because of my move, all of them have passports. All of them have passports, and she's the youngest, so I have 8 grandchildren. Well, the littlest one doesn't have passports. She's not even she's not even a year old yet, but we're working on that, because the time to get a passport is not when you're ready to leave.
Exactly. So, and I'm the same. My kids all have passports. All of my kids have left the country. I forced them out. My son, most recently, I told him to go spend like 2 weeks in Europe with the school and just learn that there's a huge world out there. And the majority of United States citizens do not have passports. The majority do not. And that amazes me when you compare other countries. I mean, whether you're Europe or you're talking about the continent of Africa or Asia, people are much more mobile, and we're here in the US.
Yes,
just sitting here.
They have passport abroad in country. They have passports like they have driver's license.
Exactly.
And so I explain it to people like it's 50 states in the US. That one driver's license allows you to drive through all 50 states. Okay. That's what, now just open that up. That passport allows you to go into all these different countries in the world.
Yeah.
So it's like you just expanded your you have a driver's license and a flying license. That's it. That's it. That's basically it. And when I put it like that, it's like, just because you live in Texas, you don't have to drive to California, or you don't have to drive to New York. But what if you want to? What if there's a wedding? What if there's something? You don't say, oh, I got to get my driver's license first, and then no, you have it. You can just get in the car and go. And that's the same thing with a passport. It's passportability, it's travelability that you have. And who's to say that it won't get harder to get one, or that US passport is always going to be as welcome as it is, because that changes. Every country gets to determine how powerful, what amount of privileges they're going to allow to another particular country. The US, very fortunately, is in the top 10 of passports that have. It's not, and don't be fooled, we're not the number one.
Yes, we are not the number one, people.
We must be at the top. No, we are not. And we lost during the Trump administration. I think 15 countries no longer allowed us entry without other steps. We still are allowed into countries with just that passport. At customs, we can get a stay visa for whatever, 30 days, 60 days, 180 days. And so that's a powerful thing.
Very powerful.
Because there are some countries you can't leave. You can't leave. You may want to leave, but the country will, you have to pay a sum of money. You have to know certain people. You have to have a job security. You just can't leave. So we take that for granted, and we shouldn't.
Right. And I do acknowledge in my research, there is the privilege of the little blue book, as I refer to it.
I do too.
And so I encourage everyone to just get out and travel and see the world. It's so eye-opening, and just people's different perspectives, and people live differently. And I mean, the main important thing I want people to understand, just because we do it one way in the US does not mean it's done universal around the world, and that we do it better. You know, there are a lot of things I've learned that, like, wow, why don't we do it this way? One of those things I learned, because like during COVID, I was shut down for 2020, but it's 2021 opened up. I was like back out the country and traveling. Was the idea like abroad, they had these little handheld devices that swiped your credit card. No one ever took it into some mystery back room. And then
Yes,
I started thinking, why in the US do we trust people to take our credit cards, go off somewhere in the back, we can't see them, and swipe it? We're so trusting. And I'm like, we can't afford handheld devices. Now they're becoming more popular.
yeah,
COVID, they become more popular, but it was eye opening of like, that doesn't make sense to me. But we're
yeah.
supposed to be so technology.
Yeah, so we not only we hand off the card, but then we give them the signature when they come back. So now they have the card number and the signature. Okay, so that's really important. It is, and yeah, and there's a lot of things that we take from. We just assume, well, that's just the way it is. And I was telling you on a prior discussion, one of the reasons I moved was better health care, especially for African Americans in the U.S. We know a lot of times our complaints, our symptoms go ignored. It's
Yeah.
documented. I'm not making that up. Our skin is
Research.
tougher. We don't feel pain as much.
Mhm.
We all want to be highly medicated, and so by the time it's so the situation is so chronic that they go, oh, but you've mentioned it for
Yeah.
maybe a couple of years. Now it's at stage this. When you first brought it up, it was at the infancy of it, or where it could have been caught and saved and whatever. And so it was important to me because people think, well, why would you leave the US? We have the best healthcare. No, we don't.
No, we don't.
And there is documentation on that. There is
Yeah.
documentation about the world healthcare, and the US is not even in the top 25. I think we're 39.
We're
But
somewhere
anyway,
around there. We're overpriced.
yes,
We're
we're not accessible.
no.
I have all my benefits. I'm a retiree. I have Medicare. I'm going to keep Medicare. I have a wonderful Medicare Advantage plan. However, when I called my primary care physician in May, I could not get a Zoom appointment, not a walk-in, until July 31st.
Yeah.
And if I was sick, they said go to emergency.
Yep.
I live in Ecuador. Oh, I can't go to emergency in Dallas, Texas. Okay. But May to July, that's May, June, July. I call my doctor here. She's here either that day or the next day, and it's
Mhm.
$60, period. Not deductible, not copay. That is the charge. And she
That
speaks
is,
English, and the care and the labs. I go do a lab. She calls it in. I can leave that day and go to the lab. It's waiting on me. She has it sent to her and my cell phone. It's just accessible, accessible and affordable and good quality. Now that's not
Mhm.
every country, but you do your homework.
Yeah, you do your homework. And that's the problem. In the US, I call it propaganda.
It is
But
propaganda.
that
It
we
is.
are the best in everything, and we're not. And healthcare is one of the areas where it's not. And for Black women, I mean, all of us have our stories. I mean, you're talking about trying to get with your primary. I wanted to see a dermatologist, and I couldn't even book an appointment because the book was filled up for the next 6 months. And they kept saying, call back and see if, the book is open further or there's a cancellation. I'm like, for 6 months? I said, what if I had like skin cancer or
Yes,
something like that?
that's what I'm saying. By that time, it's so far advanced, and you
Yep.
are paying a monthly premium for care you are not getting until whatever the condition is has progressed to where
Yep.
it could have been affordable, it could have been preventable, it could have been taken. And we
It's
think that's the norm, and
and
we
it's
don't know
not.
anything about universal health care. So we're the only major
Yep.
civilized country that doesn't make sure all of its citizens can go see a doctor when they're sick.
Yes. And many African countries have made it a constitutional right.
As should we, with the taxes that we pay.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
It's so, and as I was saying with Black women, many of us have had a fight. My first I was in like in labor, and I was fighting with the doctors trying to tell them something is wrong. Something is wrong. And it wasn't until they saw it on the machine
Yes. Like
that
we don't know our bodies. We don't know our bodies.
that the contractions were coming like 2 to 3 at a time. I wasn't getting a break, which means if we all remember, when you're having a contraction, the baby is cut off with oxygen.
Yeah.
That was until they saw that, then they wanted to rush to do the, C-section, but I shouldn't have had to fight you to get you to pay attention. Like
And we
I was,
all have our nightmares,
yeah,
especially during pregnancy. We
yeah,
are behind third world countries
yes,
in infant and pregnant women mortality rates.
I
We are
know.
behind them. We
It's
don't get the attention until it's too late. And for each of my daughters, except I have 3 daughters, there's only one. And she was very fortunate to have a very specialized Black doctor who was just on it because she had a child in 38, which they called a geriatric pregnancy. But he was so on it. The rest of them did not have a Black doctor, and their doctors were highly qualified, whatever. But in each case, there were situations that happened that shouldn't happen, that put my daughter at risk, that put the child at risk. My firstborn granddaughter had to be in NICU only because they ignored that it was going to be a zirconium birth, that she had literally had a bowel movement, and the doctor on duty never saw her, never came in the room. The doctor that came on duty looked at the chart and sent her to emergency and that baby had to stay in NICU because it could have ingested bile and had an infection and died. A healthy, full-term baby.
Yep. And it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, Serena Williams. I'm like, who is messing with Serena Williams?
Nobody. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter which hospital you're in. One of our head politicians just died after successful surgery because they let her sit in her feces and get an infection. A politician, a Texas politician, the president flew to her funeral, but she would be alive today and she was a nurse. So she told them, I am going to die if y'all don't take care of me. And she did. She was dead within 10 days.
Yeah. And I remember, I don't know if you remember hearing a story, and I'm blanking on the Black woman's name, but it was during COVID. And she was trying to tell them issues that she was having, and she was a doctor. And the other doctors were ignoring her. And she passed away, where she was trying to say, this is wrong, I need these tests, ignoring her. And it boggles my mind. And we have a long track record in this country.
I got all the horror stories. We could go on forever about the horror stories, but we know this. And so we will always have a battle with, like I said at the very onset, we are not trying to convince you that this is you to leave the US, and we are not hating on our country. I love my country. My ancestors worked too hard for me to ever give up citizenship. You can leave the US. You don't have to give up citizenship. You can have residency in several countries
Yes.
all over the world at the same time and still have full citizenship and vote, which
Mhm.
please vote, because we want more privileges, not less privileges.
Less, not less. Yes.
We want to go forward. We're not going back.
Right.
So
Exactly.
vote like your life
Exactly.
and your freedom depends on it, because it does. It really, really does. That was one of the things we brought up the first time we talked, and I told you I extended my stay in the US this year until I was sure that I could vote by email abroad. It was that
Right.
important. I changed reservations, and I was not getting on a plane and coming back here and not being able to vote. And so that's all taken care of. I don't care where you live
Good.
in the world, you have a responsibility. And if you are on any kind of government income like Social Security or pension, that they want to wipe it out. So you better vote.
And I want my Social Security. I put into it. Like I want, it will help me move much
Yeah,
easier. Which I do stress to people, which a lot of people don't realize. You can collect your Social Security abroad.
that's
You can
what the
do it.
seniors, yes, the seniors
You
are.
can, yes,
There are people
seniors,
in my
you can,
group that are 3 years out, 2 years out, and they're just counting down, and they're
yeah,
doing their research, and they're asking people how it's like in Costa Rica, how it's like in Panama, how it's like in Ecuador, and I mean just Paris, all over the world. And there's people in the group that can answer those questions, so they have the time to plot that course and to know when to take their Social Security and know to keep their Medicare benefits. And
mhm,
also, I have my government's benefits, Medicare. Then I also have the IESS here, which is the Ecuadorian equivalent of Medicare, where I can go see a doctor, I can go to the hospitals, and all that's taken care of for like $70 a month. Okay. So I'm covered there, and then I can add private insurance onto that
mhm.
if I want to maybe go to the quicker, faster, because there may be a wait, but what they call a wait here is is
It's
laughable.
not
I
six
don't think I'd
months.
be waiting. Yeah, I'm waiting for Medicare. If I'm waiting 3 months to see my doctor in the state, I think I can wait 3 weeks here or 3 days here. And they're going, oh, you might have to wait. I'm like, what? What? To the end of the week? Okay.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, please vote on my Social Security. But um, but yeah, I mean there's only a handful of countries that you can't, I mean, and they're the obvious, like if you move to North Korea, you're not getting your
No.
Social Security
Do
number,
your homework. Do your homework.
yeah.
Don't just, we're not saying, nobody's promoting wake up one day and say, I'm out of here, pack a bag,
Yeah.
and land in the country and think you'll figure it out. That is poor planning. And I
Yeah.
tell people, do boots on the ground. If you know that this is a dream or something that you just want to investigate because, oh, I didn't know people were doing it. Oh, I didn't know there's communities. Because at our age, community is very important,
Yes.
because with the digital nomads, they're not looking to maybe be there for a year. Well, they may be there for a couple of weeks and then they go on, and they're seeing the world. Um, they're young, they're healthy, so healthcare is not as important to them. It's very important to us. Community is very important to us, because we're not in a corporate setting where we're going to be meeting a team of people in this country, or we're going to be in a business cafe where other entrepreneurs are working, and we're in our homes. And so it's very important for us. We want to have breakfast at 11 o'clock. We want to walk on the beach at 7 in the morning, and then go back and sit down and have coffee for 2 hours, and then go home and maybe meet in the evening and go to water aerobics or yoga, whatever. We need other people in our age group that aren't on the clock.
Right.
So yeah, and that's why I wanted that included in your survey. And I'm excited about the work that you're doing, because I think it's going to benefit all of us just by showing us it's happening, what level it's happening, the
Mhm.
scope is happening, and then they can do their further investigation. And I say investigate and experiment, because we're not saying sell all your earthly belongings and go.
No.
We're saying
Yeah.
test the water, go stay, not a vacation, not a resort, because that's a vacation and a resort. Go
Right.
and spend significant amount of time. Spend a month there. Spend six weeks there. Don't do all the touristy stuff. Get to know the locals. Go shop in the neighborhoods. Get to know the other expats. Get to know the weather and the neighborhood. A neighborhood may look one way at night and be totally different.
Very true.
Very nice and tranquil in the daytime, and then there's music all night. You know, people being serenaded and just all kinds of stuff. You go, wait a minute, it was beautiful and quiet during the day. Yeah, because all the locals were at work. Now they're at home and they're celebrating with their families and stuff like that. And or there's construction going on, all of that. So you won't know that in a brochure. You won't know that on a YouTube video.
Right. And it's a lot of my studies showed that it was taking about a month for people to truly notice their health improving. Not that they weren't seeing changes or feeling a little bit different beforehand, but the significant changes of like waking up and realizing, wow, I dropped a significant amount of weight. And they're not doing, by the way, they're not doing a whole bunch of aerobics and working out.
I didn't do
It's the
anything the first
food.
year. I'm active this year. It was a joke last year because they're like, we're not even, don't ask us what time we walk. We know you're not showing up. You are not going to show up. And every week I'm like, okay, so where do y'all need to walk? And they just look at each other.
Mhm.
So this year I was like, no, I'm going to get active. But I was getting acclimated and I wasn't going to force myself. But you're right, because people, the food is the first thing, because they're like, this tastes different. Well, what do you mean different? Oh, it's so sweet. It's so much better. Oh, you're eating non-GMO. Oh, you're eating without pesticides. Oh, no growth hormones, no antibiotics. And then your skin starts to clear up. Oh, I've always had a skin problem. No, you've had a diet intake problem.
Exactly.
Your skin was telling you, I don't like what you're putting in me. I had a revelation just this past week. I've been off dairy for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Loved milk, whole milk. Never liked it, whole milk. And at 47, so I'm 68. So 47, I just could not take milk. My body just couldn't tolerate milk. Well, the ladies over here always get the steamed milk with the cappuccino, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna try it." I had no bloating, no nothing. It was just steamed whole milk and espresso, and it tastes like a cappuccino, and it was just so smooth, and it was so. So I'm like, I could have been drinking milk for a year here, but I was on the nut milk, the oat milk and the quinoa, the rice milk and everything, and I still like that for the nutrition, but
yes. Yeah, I
have lactose intolerant. I was whatever they put
in it. Our food is heavily processed. And even when I leave the country, like I normally in the summer, I'm gone for like a month somewhere. Like my family jokes, like, where's Waldo? Where's Keely? Like she's traipsing around the world. But I am able to generally eat whatever I want outside the country, and I don't have stomach issues. I don't have the bloating, and it's the realization that it's our food. It is also, now this isn't my particular research, but you can look it up, and there's other researchers who have done it, where even in the soil, so even if you grow, I don't know, the apples, and you're not putting the pesticides and chemicals on it, studies have shown that our soil is so contaminated that then the apples are still an issue, which boggles my mind, because I'm like, oh my gosh, can we ever eat anything that's grown in this country? But those are a lot of the issues that when people leave the country, that is why That's why they're losing weight. That's why their health is improving. A lot of the processed foods in our body cause inflammation. So
Yes.
what we think is weight gain is actually inflammation in the body, because the body's fighting whatever
Yes, your
they're
body is
putting it.
processing a non-food
Yeah,
and it
that when we leave,
struggles.
yep, it clears up. There was one researcher, I'm blanking on his name. He was from Europe. He was talking about, he kind of did a study on himself
Mhm.
that when he would come to the US, he would gain about 10 to 15 pounds. He was eating the same foods that he would eat in Europe, but he was starting to realize that it was the inflammation. And then when he would leave, then his body would be able to start clearing out the inflammation, and then he would drop weight. From my first study, a lot of the people I interviewed were talking about they had high blood pressure, they had diabetes, the one you're not born with, but it's onset through
Yes,
environmental.
type 2.
When they, two of them lived in Asia, Vietnam and Japan. When they were there, they were under control. They were fine. They didn't have issues. When they came back to visit family, short periods of time, it would flare up. And they said between the stress, the food, it would flare up, and then they will go back. And then their doctors, like in Vietnam and Japan, are yelling at them saying, "Oh my God, like, what did you do to
Yeah, what did
yourself?"
you do? What did you, you
And they're
just
like,
went
"All we
home.
did was go home. We just went home to visit our family."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's like
And
stuff like that I want us to know. One is a lot of what we get blamed for, that the way we eat, like, what Black women in particular, we don't work out, or, we eat horrible soul food, so we gain all this weight. It's not always us. Like it's the environment. And then depending on what neighborhood you live in,
yes,
you might not
yes.
have even
A
access.
food desert. You may be in a food desert where all the food available to you is junk food, it's
Yeah.
highly processed food. And I think that's by design. I know in Dallas
Yeah.
there was a neighborhood that for years did not have a grocery store, and they said they would donate the land for a major grocery store to come into that neighborhood, and they would not come in. And there was a Black university there that had an athletic field, but they didn't have an athletic department. So they dug it up and did an organic garden and fed and then sold it the goods to restaurants and brought attention there. And then a small grocer came in and sold their wares. But you will have food deserts where if all you're eating is garbage, you're going to be sick, and you're not going to feel good. You're not going to be at your best. You're not going to do well in school if your body is not. I mean, it's just so many reasons.
The
And
ripple effect is
it's
just,
a ripple, and then you're
yeah.
on medications, and the medications have side effects. So then you're on another medication and when you come and visit a country, and just the lack of the poisons in the soil and in the
Yeah.
food, you start to feel better. You come off of some of the medication. You go back and see your doctor, and they go, "I don't know what you did, but this is improved." And you didn't do anything.
You
You
didn't do
bought the
anything.
same fruit you were used to buying, the same fruit and meats that you were used to buying. They just were free of all the stuff that our government allows to be put in our food, and some not even labeled, because if
Right.
it's below this percent, you don't even have to tell the person they're ingesting it.
We have plastic in our food. There's a level where if it's a
It can
small
leach
amount,
in. Yeah, it can leach
we're
in.
allowed, yeah, that we can have plastic. Like, how is that good in any, I don't
Any
know.
scenario where
Any
where
scenario,
your
how
body
should
just
we?
decided, oh, I'm going to learn to process plastic. Yeah. Okay, your stomach may be bloated and you may develop this thing over here, this growth. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Which is why, again, I'm so happy I discovered you. I'm so happy to introduce you to the group. I'm so thrilled about what's going to come from it, the information. Even for those who never desire to leave, I hope they get their passport, that they'll have that option. And I wanted to touch on the fact that you don't have to stay. You can the same plane that flies you to a destination will fly you back home. And there was a woman, her and her son stayed in, I don't even remember what country it was, but they stayed there for 3 years. And she was not a retiree or whatever, but she was going back home for various reasons. And she said she did not see it as a failure. It was a learning experience, and that they were going to make adjustments and do it again, maybe to a different area or whatever. So she did not have one single regret, because now she had the knowledge of how to do it better, stay longer, and everything like that, and how to evaluate better and prepare better. Because if you don't prepare, and it's your first time you can get there, and because it's different, the first thing we think is, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, this is hard. No, it's different. That doesn't mean it's less. That doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's different. And you have to be open to that. And that's why I call it a boots on the ground. But I say you go there and you spend time there. You talk to the people that look like you who have already moved there. And one of the luxuries of moving to Manta is the large, the significant retirement community of Black expats and other expats, European expats, is that most of the people, the service people that we use, have already been vetted. You know,
Yeah.
we know we're dealing with people who have a good reputation, know what they're doing, and we pass on that information, and they are aware of their being vetted. So they want to make sure they do a good job, because we talk. If this person did not do a good job or he's overcharged us, we're going to tell everybody in that community, in our community, that's not the person.
And that helps your mental health. I mean, one of the biggest issues with seniors in the US is that they're alone. It's our culture here, if we can say our culture, isn't one of strong community. I'm not saying there aren't pockets of it, but as a whole, we are not a culture where you have generations upon generations living underneath the same roof. We're not, I mean, we're a culture, your kids turn 18, you kick them out.
Yes.
They're not supposed to come back.
We're the only country that kicks out an 18-year-old and puts them on his own. These people's children stay in their home until they get married.
We're kicking out. And then when you turn around and look at our parents, it's like this grumble of like, oh, we got to take care of our parents. We got to move them in. So many are then shipped off to nursing homes, and that's not a good environment either. So one of the big things that my first study showed was there was more community when they moved abroad. And it could be community among, the expats, from where they were from, or just the country they moved to was more based in community. And so the locals took them in. Yes. And so it's the locals that are checking in on them, or if they have kids, they can have babysitters. Where here, everyone is so stressed and moving around and trying to get even a little bit of time for themselves, more or less start trying to take on, other families' responsibilities. So, I mean, that alone helped with mental health, which we have to understand. So we have to understand our mental health has a direct connection to our physical health. So as Black women,
there is no nursing home. I don't think there's a nursing home or what. The seniors on the ground, they may have their own little apartment in the family land or whatever, or room or whatever. But grandma and pawpaw, and it's just generational, and they will build up or they will build out on the land. But there's not even a concept that they consider. It's like, why, when she who took care of us needs us most, will we ship her off to be taken care of by strangers? it's something they don't know we do it. Or when I say we, I meant the U.S. does it. It's
Right,
like,
right,
okay, pick your house, pick your home because you're going assisted living.
right.
But another thing that some of the senior groups are looking at is co-living,
Yeah.
where while you're still independent, you still want to travel. But if you're, especially if you're a solo ager, there's another woman I
Mhm.
want to interview about solo aging that she's doing in the States. But people are doing it
Yeah.
now in other countries where seniors are coming together and they're either renting or buying these property where
Right.
there is a community of seniors and they may have a nursing facility or nurses that come in and care for them on a week or cook their meals when they don't feel like assistant living, kind of like what we're doing
Right.
in assistant living, but on a smaller scope or a larger scope. I mean,
Right.
they can afford it. They can afford it where they could not afford it. And
Oh
another
no.
thing that's staying in the States is eliminating the transfer of wealth, because a lot of times in order to get them the long-term care or the nursing care, you give up the family home. You
Yep.
sign that over to the government. So now you don't have a transfer of wealth. It's
Yep.
gone. It's
Yeah.
gone.
And it's all interrelated when we look at race relations in the US. I mean, the disparity, the wealth gap disparity between Black Americans and white, it's ridiculous and it's dropping. So the gains that maybe my grandparents or my parents made are
Yes,
now been lost in
yes.
later generations. And it's just all of it comes together
It all comes together.
and it causes stress. So a lot of my research isn't necessarily saying you need to leave, but showing a mirror to the US and saying, what are you doing so wrong that when your citizens leave your country, they are doing better? There's something wrong with you that if they're leaving and their health improves, their mental health, they're more financially situated, that's an issue with you.
Yeah.
And you need to be looking at that. Um, and hopefully hopefully the research I gather, someone will listen to me and take
Yes,
a look at
yes,
it.
yes, yes.
But
I'm
I mean,
so
that's,
glad we're having
yeah.
this talk, and I think it's so valuable. And I said there was two surprises at the end, and one of them is because I'm always telling people try it before you commit to this is something you want to do, especially if you're thinking about it. You don't even know if it's traveling abroad is for you, but or you're planning it, but you haven't decided how you're going to do it. You do want to, watch the YouTube channels, find out about the Facebook groups that speak to an area or age, whatever that most looks like your situation. And one of the things 60 Plus is doing, we did our first one last year, was we did I call it a mini boots on the ground. We did a cultural relocation tour of Panama, because Panama is on a lot of people's list,
Yeah.
and some of them are planning, and they may not be able to afford to spend 6 weeks in Panama doing the boots on the ground. So we that's why I picked a culture relocation tour rather than a resort vacation.
Mhm.
So the women come from everywhere, and they for 7 days. It was 5 days the first time, but they meet vetted immigration people, vetted real estate people. They actually get to tour for certain living venues like high rise or suburb, inner city condo, whatever, as well as you're doing it with a bunch of sisters. So we had a ball. We had a ball. We made the work fun. And
Right.
then we've added on a spa package and everything. But it wasn't work. It was pleasure, but we were getting the information and we weren't being sold to. We weren't being targeted. And so it
Right.
was just the best of both worlds. And so I approached Charlotte and said, do it again for 60 Plus. And we are doing it again. Registration is currently open and we're already half full. We're already half full because we are not looking at quantity. We're looking we're looking at quality because we want to make
Right.
sure every woman is pampered. And
Mhm.
so we're half full. The date is January 5th through the 12th. It's all inclusive. Once you land, you're picked up at the airport, and it includes your entertainment, your venues, your transportation, all that's taken care of. And at a very, very nice price, which is why we're locking it in and we're going to close it down as soon as we reach 20 or by the end of the month of September. I don't see us going past September. Uh, if so, maybe the first week because we are getting people in. So I don't want them to delay. And we set up a payment plan. So,
I might have to switch over to you because I was talking to Charlotte about doing it in February, but I like January. So
and the
I'm
weather's beautiful. Yes, that would be so great. That would be so great. And she's so open to that because I remember last year
yeah.
there were two women who had planned, and her tours sell out. Her tours always
Yeah.
sell out. And so
Yeah.
that's why I said we're just doing this for 60 plus. And if you see this on YouTube, then join 60 plus Black Women Expats. You don't have to be 60 to join. You do have to be a Black American female. You do have to be a Black American female to
Mhm.
join 60 plus Black Women Expat. And then you can register to be a part of the tour. The other thing is Stephanie Perry, who is world renowned, the house sitter and just Exodus Summit, who also tells people how to travel abroad and do it the right way and educate them. Is going to be visiting Manta the Labor Day weekend. She's going to be here August 30th. So if you're headed to Manta or you headed to Manta to meet Stephanie, she's going to be doing a meetup, just a meetup. No, it's not a seminar and all that. Just meet Stephanie. And people like, and the people who know her are doing this. We already have like 20 or so already coming in the group, and then some locals are going to join us too. So those were the two exciting things that I'm excited about. I get to meet the woman who told me start your own Facebook channel. I get to meet her face to face August 30th. And you can join when you join 60 plus Black Women Expats. I'll have an event thing that you can press if you're going to attend so I can let her know how many plan to attend. Or if you're part of Exodus Summit, you can go in and also she has an event there where she'll know how many is going to show up. And then if you live in Manta, in my WhatsApp, in the Everything Manta WhatsApp, you can just tell me you're going to attend. So, Dr. Keating, do you have anything else that you want to share?
Now I just want to encourage people if they come across the survey to complete it or share. I share it and other people fill it out. But I just think it's so important that we gather as much information about, within our community so that we're well informed. It's not like it's the government, it's for us to know. Hopefully I will eventually turn this into a book and share with people. But it's really like trying to make sure we're taking care of ourselves and we know our options. Like as Deborah is saying, we're not saying which way to move, but if you know your options, then you can really make an informed decision. So I want to encourage that. And I always want to say, if anyone ever has questions, um, they're always free to reach out to me. I'm hoping to make the move. I am one of those US citizens getting ready to kick their 18-year-old out. But no, I have a son going to be a senior. So this time next year, I will be taking him to some college for him. But wherever I go, I want a place where my family and my kids
Yeah,
can always
yes.
visit me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think this is so valuable, and I hope you get a lot of good comments. And the survey is definitely going to be in the Facebook group. I already have it, so I will have it in right below. I will post it in this where the video is seen. And if you see it on YouTube, just join the Facebook group, and it'll be there.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I hope to meet you now in January, but if
Yes.
not,
Yes.
I'll make my way to Ecuador because that is on my list. That's on my
Okay,
list to check out.
good, good, good. All right, that's it. Like I said, I think this information was very valuable, and I will know by your input and the number of you who do participate. Now you know who she is. You've seen her face. The survey's in the group. You can feel comfortable doing it, and it's anonymous. So you don't have to
Yes.
give your name or anything like that. That's important because I didn't know it was anonymous. Okay.
It's anonymous. The only thing is if you're open to being interviewed and like sharing your story, all the way at the end, you just give me your email address and then I'll
Okay.
reach out to you then. But if you don't want to be interviewed, you just want to give information, that's it. It's anonymous.
Okay. All righty.